In late August, Target announced that they would be backing away from their Stores as Hubs program. Now, this program, which started in 2017, had the company using dedicated spaces in the backrooms of regular Target stores to fulfill digital orders. The company's explanation for the change is that they need to focus more on the in store shopping experience, at least in some locations. This program was rolled out with such huge fanfare. So, why has Target changed their minds about it? Well, it's an interesting story. And so, in this week's episode of Art of Supply, I will take you through the Target Stores as Hubs model, which is an example of omnichannel retail fulfillment. We'll examine the challenges the company ran into, as well as the successes they had. And then I'll share about what I've read about what Target plans to move to next. Now, omnichannel fulfillment is the idea that you can meet all customer needs at the same time. If you want to walk into a store, pick something out, and pay for it, sure. Maybe you want to buy it online and have someone run it out to your car. Or maybe you buy it online and they deliver it to your house the same day. That works. Or you could just stay home and place an order online and accept you'll get your items in a few days. All of the inventory, systems, logistics, marketing, and people associated with making any of these options work is supposed to be the same. But wait, there's more. It also saves money. Target wouldn't need separate warehouses. It would keep their costs low and make their digital sales more profitable. Now, Target's own estimates are that fulfilling their e-commerce orders using pre-existing store locations allows them to save 40% per package compared to what it would have cost them if they had dedicated distribution centers. 40% is an amazing number. So you can see why they went all in on this strategy. Earlier this year, Target actually said that 96% of their net sales volume was being fulfilled by stores rather than warehouses. And that would include both traditional in-store sales as well as these online orders. And it's a significant increase. Only 55% of online orders were being fulfilled through these stores as hubs in 2023. This idea, the idea of being able to pull off these omni-channel operations, was appealing to way more companies than Target. And I think it's interesting to point out that it did start long before COVID changed so many customer shopping habits. From 2015 to 2017, retailers of all kinds saw massive shifts towards digital shopping. And smart retailers do what good companies do. They followed the data and they said the future is omnichannel. They went all in. So, what exactly is an omni-channel shopper? It's not just about having a customer base, some of which buy through the different channels. Omni-channel shoppers are a unique breed. They, in and of themselves, buy through all of the different formats. They go to the website, they have the app on their phone, they're walking into stores, they're using all of the different delivery formats. According to research shared in the Harvard Business Review, quote, after controlling for shopping experience, they, meaning omnichannel shoppers, spent an average of 4% more on every shopping occasion in the store and 10% more online than single channel customers. Even more compelling, with every additional channel they used, the shoppers spent more money in the store. For example, customers who used 4 or more channels spent 9% more in the store, on average, when compared to those who used just one channel. So these findings suggest that not only are omnichannel shoppers highly profitable, but that their shopping behaviors aren't what retailers would have thought. The idea used to be that if you went into a store, you would see something you just had to have, and into the cart or into the basket it went. This idea that it was impulse buys that increased your spending. What they found about omnichannel shoppers is that they were doing a lot of looking before they got to the store, and that combination of activities and availability channels increased overall what they spent. In addition to this, omnichannel shoppers are more brand loyal because they develop these habits. I mean, from all of those numbers and indications, there is no downside to an omnichannel shopper. And because of that, Target embarked on a 3-year, $7 billion plan to embrace the stores as hubs idea. And at the time, in their communications, they positioned themselves as going against a trend they felt other retailers were pursuing. They looked at other retailers and they said, oh, they're shutting store locations, they're stopping opening new store locations, they're canceling rebrands and remakes. They looked at the excess capacity that Target had in low and medium volume stores, and they said, this capacity can be how we pull off this ship from store program. And for it, they were pulling from one set of inventory. So it wasn't that you could get one set of things in a store and one set of things online. It was all the same inventory because the idea was that they would be fulfilling such a massive portion of all sales through the store locations. Now, there's an additional piece of data that's interesting here. When they started the Stores as Hubs program back in 2017, Target declared that 3/4 of the US population lived within 10 miles of a Target store. That is amazing. It was starting to look like they could be all things to all people in all places with all preferences, when in fact, it was starting to sound too good to be true, which is what we began to see. Even as recently as May of 2024, Target's omnichannel strategy was described as frictionless, and that was for customers. But at the same time, cracks were starting to show. And those cracks were suggesting that maybe omnichannel and stores as hubs wasn't as seamless or frictionless for employees. And if your employees aren't happy, pretty soon your customers aren't going to be happy either. Data suggests that Target's in-store employees didn't like having to do digital fulfillment. They were hurrying around to fulfill online orders, and it ultimately led to store shelves having higher than average out-of-stock rates. They were also giving weaker customer service because they weren't in the aisles looking to be available to people. It wasn't clear to store employees what they were supposed to prioritize. If I only have so much time, do I fulfill that online order or do I go restock a shelf? Those decisions need to be made clearly and at scale for in-store employees. Now, not only were a lot of these stores trying to juggle walk-in and digital sales, they were also doing it with smaller staffs. And this all started to lead to a lot of frustration. 40% of Target's workers indicated in a company survey that they don't have confidence in the company's future. That score was lower than it had been the year before. And it was even true for employees working right near the company's headquarters in Minneapolis. Target tried hiring more people. They tried providing better tools to make online order items easier to find and pack. They got to a point where about 95% of online orders that were intended for store pickup were ready within the hour. But something was still off. And it wasn't just this decision of online fulfillment versus in-store restocking that was creating an issue. Many stores started to have problems with loss prevention or theft. They started to have to lock up more and more products. Now, at the time, CEO Brian Cornell said that customers were grateful about products being locked up because it meant they were in stock. Now, look, I don't know if you have to shop in an area where things are locked down. It only works if people are available to unlock those shelves so that you can get the items. More often than not, I've actually found myself walking out of the store without an item, switching to private label that maybe isn't locked up, or getting more and more frustrated as I stand there waiting. All of this combined started to show up in company performance. Shares of Target have fallen about 61% since they reached their all-time high in late 2021. Same store sales have been stagnant for the last 4 years, and the company is looking at 10 quarters of either flat or falling sales. Now, it isn't as though they don't have an explanation. Target has pointed to inflation, tariffs, and consumer confidence to explain these numbers. And that explanation is credible. According to estimates by Global Data Retail, 50% of Target customer purchases are considered discretionary, compared to 40% from customers at Walmart, meaning that more of a Walmart customer's purchase is considered essential or necessary to them. Now, that competitive pressure from Walmart is something that Target has to keep a really close eye on. And it's become a bigger and bigger deal as Walmart has started to draw away some of Target's higher income customers. The stores originally chosen to be part of this digital fulfillment program had what the company described as a, quote, manageable level of walk-in traffic. So they weren't necessarily picking the biggest or the busiest stores. They were looking at stores with capacity. So as they start to roll this back, it'll be interesting to see how they choose to handle it. Target first tested their pullback in Chicago, and they're going to be stopping the practice of stores as hubs in 30 to 4 markets over the course of the year, but they have not yet publicly specified which ones. Now, the interesting thing is, this pullback doesn't mean they're going to a more traditional warehouse or distribution center philosophy. Instead of fulfilling at some of the smaller locations in Chicago, they're doing the same kind of stores as hubs fulfillment, but in larger stores in the region. So they're finding that, ironically, if you want to get something done, ask someone who's already busy, maybe a policy that works for them in terms of keeping these stores in place as fulfillment hubs. The company recognizes that they have to do better, and they've known this all along. In fact, current, soon to be outgoing CEO Brian Cornell said, quote, "It's also important to note that while our stores are fulfilling more digital orders, it's not coming at the cost of in-store sales. Our stores as hub strategy isn't putting our core business at risk. It's simply helping us grow faster." But that's not necessarily playing out in the overall numbers today. When we look at Q1 of 2025, Target's online sales grew, but total sales decreased. And we saw the same thing in Q2. So in a way, they're winning the battle, I guess, around digital growth, but losing the war, which is overall company sales. Michael Fidelki is the current CEO, and he will become CEO when the current CEO steps down in February. This problem is so embedded in the way the company operates that some people are actually questioning whether an insider can actually fix what's currently wrong. Now, Target started converting their stores to fulfillment hubs at a time when other chains were shutting down physical locations. At the time, Target saw that as a competitive advantage. But we know their decisions around which stores, smaller ones versus larger, busier ones, they kept open and used as stores as hubs locations. Maybe they ended up keeping the wrong stores open just because they could function as distribution centers. The omnichannel strategy isn't necessarily going away. We know that those shoppers are very profitable. And research from Accenture suggests that companies with strong omnichannel strategies have a 91% higher year-over-year customer retention rate than those without. That absolutely backs up Target's approach. It may just suggest that their omnichannel strategy wasn't as strong as they thought it was. The idea of omnichannel originally started with marketing, and from there it needed to expand to tech, to supply chain, and to customer experience. Each one of those steps is a hard leap to make. And how do we know that this is difficult to do? Because the intellectual powers that be have already invented the next best thing. It's better than omnichannel. It's unified commerce. Unified commerce brings all of the moving pieces together, understanding that it all works or none of it works. And that may be what we're seeing at Target. Coresight Research is a firm that covers retail technology. And in terms of customer engagement, they've noted that unified commerce can represent a refinement of earlier strategies meant to ensure in store and virtual retail work in mutually supportive ways. So, in other words, it takes the idea of omnichannel and it makes it work better. So, it's sort of like Omnichannel 2.0. In retrospect, it's amazing how quickly Target went from ramping up and championing this seamless omni-channel experience to walking it back. You wonder if putting the COO in charge of the whole company will change things, and it certainly may. He's going to have a much better sense than a lot of other people about what needs to be done to fix this and maybe some of the other problems it's causing. I think the big question is whether Target can rebuild the overall experience they've become so famous for. And I don't see why not. They've shown that they're willing to follow the data. They just have to be careful to follow all of the data, not just in the areas where you're showing growth. Otherwise, you do end up in a situation where digital is growing and everywhere else is falling off. The reality is, it takes courage to walk back a program that you were really proud of. But it looks like Target has that courage. And hopefully, that courage and their willingness to go against the trend will be enough to carry them through the tough time they currently find themselves in.